ShirtOut.com here with Matt Hume at your age-old gym here in Kirkland, Washington. You were around, you've seen all the different iterations of what MMA, NHB, Vale Tudo are. Do you like the version we have now?
I can say yes and no to that question. A lot of people think that the sport has evolved to such a high level, but the reality is that a few people in the sport have evolved to a high level, but you've got a lot more people that are not good at anything in the sport now because you've got such a huge pool now in the sport. So everybody's doing MMA today, and a lot of them are not good. But there's some that have done what they need to do and evolved very far, which is the way it should be. Back in the day, you had people who were really good in certain aspects. And today, a lot of people have never matched how good those people were in those certain aspects. Everybody's a little bit more well-rounded as a whole. But the kickboxers that were in K1 back then, the Thai fighters, the boxers, you had some real greats that you don't see that kind of single skills coming out with most mixed martial artists. You see a few of them. The evolution of the sport still has a long way to go, and the individuals in it have a long way to go. And I like it. I like where certain individuals are heading, and then there's a lot of things that I don't like about the sport now with some of the people that have come into it too.
What don't you like about MMA?
At this point in MMA, the hype machines are rolling, and there's a lot of trash talk to get fights rather than skill to get fights.
As a martial artist, do you
I despise that. I despise that. I mean, you don't see that from my guys. Demetrius Johnson, he comes in and he does his work and he goes out and wins fights.
And then mops the mats when he's done.
And mops the mats when he's done.
It's amazing.
And yeah, and all my guys are like that. All my guys, they come in here to become good martial artists. And as part of that process of becoming good martial artists and competing to refine their skills, some of them reach very high levels. And they're never about talking to get there. They're about fighting to get there.
You mentioned earlier, guys haven't matched the single skill levels that some of the early fighters had. If you had your druthers, you got to pick, you have Demetrius say, would you rather have him be well-rounded but not exceptional at anything, or have him be awesome at one thing and lacking in some of the others? I mean, what's the better formula?
None of the above. My goal is to make a perfect fighter.
What's the closest you've come to doing that?
Josh Barnett was on his way pretty well. Honestly, one of the instructors in here, Trevor Jackson, who's never fought before, who just trains. He's close. Got another guy in here, Brandon Dudley, who's only had a few fights, and Demetrius is well on his way. But obviously that standard is never going to be reached. But if you don't set that standard, you can't come close to it. So that's the only thing I really focus on. I don't really focus on, okay, I want to get you really good in this area so you can win. And my goal is that no matter how long it takes, you're in this for a lifetime. And if it takes you your entire life to get the skills you need, then that's what you need to do.
We had a conversation earlier about how you judge a fight, and 10-point must system, you're not a fan.
No,
why not?
Not at all. Well, the 10-point must system is a system that came from boxing. The 10-point must system was thrown on to mixed martial arts without any thought, and thrown on by people that didn't understand mixed martial arts. What's frustrating is that it's still there when there's no way it should be. In Japan, where we created the systems, the criteria systems, it never existed. We never put it on any fights because it didn't make sense to do it. Putting a number based on all the skills that you have in martial arts and saying there's a number that goes along with that is just ridiculous. And if you understand the history of martial arts, you understand that this started back with the Gracie Challenge, and even before that in other places, ancient pancration and stuff, and nobody ever thought of a 10-point must system and stopping the fighters and saying, okay, now stop. It was a test of your martial arts skill, and the winner was the one that was able to get up. The loser was the one that gave up, or that got knocked unconscious, or that decided to quit. Looking at the progression of the fight, you don't go, okay, we're going to stop your skills here because it's 5 minutes, and we're going to say that one third of this fight belongs right here based on a number. Because as a martial artist, you're trying to break down another martial artist. You're trying to break down their skills, their conditioning. You're trying to do damage. You're trying to get to them. just because a certain time frame happened doesn't mean anything significant happened there. And you know, maybe something significant did happen there that's much more significant than the things that are going to happen from then on in the fight. You should look at the fight to decide the winner and what occurs in the fight, not randomly break it up like a 15-round boxing match that when the 10-point must system was put in when we had 15 rounds. You should say, and the people that are using the 10s have no idea why they're putting a 10 on a fight. If you ask the 3 judges, they'll give you 3 different answers. There's no clear criteria that they're using. You know, and an organization like ABC will state criteria, but then the judges will state something completely different. And if you ask a judge, well, hey, you know, that guy did an Achilles lock, that guy did a heel hook, how would you rate that? How would you decide which one did more damage? Or, you know, they don't have a clue what the difference is. They don't have a clue whether you're cranking a you know, pressure point to make someone scream or whether you're taking their tendon off their leg. And you know, most of them don't have a clue how a low kick affects a person as opposed to you know, a punch that makes someone's nose bleed or something. It's, you know, so it's frustrating to watch that in the U.S., but fortunately, the organizations that I've been involved with, that I've had my input in, don't have that problem.
Pride was the Wild West. You know, all cash deals. You got, you know, no testing. You know, there's a lot of things that went down. And I think a lot of people understood something was going on when all the Pride stars came to North America. And wait a minute, something's not the same.
Actually, Pride, there's a lot of rumors that just aren't true about things that went on in Pride too. There were the early days of Pride and there were later, and things got developed. And there was testing in Pride. There was not steroid testing, but they tested for other drugs. And you know, and now it's like comparing that to what's going on in North America, or you know, all over the place really, where people are almost being pushed to do steroids now, and they call it TRT. You know, it's like if you can jack your levels up to a certain level. So if we can do that legally and we're not doing it, you know, there's pressure on guys to do that, and I think that's ridiculous.
There's always pressure in every sport to get an edge, and that's where it comes in on the regulatory side to prevent that.
Right, but the regulatory
side. That's my question
side
would be to you: is how do you set that up?
The regulatory side is causing that here.
Well, in North America, is a big problem.
The regulatory side is causing it. They're the ones that are setting levels that are higher than human levels, and saying that this is okay to do. I would argue to take all steroids out, regardless. You know, and if you have a low ratio that because of your age or because of things you've done before or whatever else, then I think that's what you need to either decide to retire or you need to compete with that. And if you can, then great. If you can't, then maybe it's time to look into doing other things.